have a harder
You're
time.
You're using the term pick me.
I know, I'm sorry. Every 3 weeks I pick one term and say it for things that don't apply. Now I'm going to go on to a study that's very personal to me.
Did you write it?
No, but it feels like it was written for me or was done for me.
Is it about daddy issues?
Yeah, kind of. About all issues. It's about neglect, sluts, and identity.
Oh, cute. Your 3 favorite things.
Right, exactly. Hot off the press and getting balls deep in myself.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of you guys resonate, so you're welcome.
You're welcome in advance.
Of being a champion of daddy issues. I'm getting into a study called Who Am I and What Do I Need? Identity Difficulties as a Mechanism of the Link Between Childhood Neglect and Adult Sexual Disturbances. This study needs to be replicated by others, but it makes sense, and we're just gonna get into it. This new research looks into how more subtle types of child maltreatment come into play in adult sex life. So usually when we think of child maltreatment, we think of physical abuse, not being fed, like really intense things. But then there are like other sort of childhood needs that are not met that can be considered, like, as the researchers put it, more subtle childhood abuse is just having parents who aren't really around. Just not getting all the love and attention that a child needs.
Sure. I talk about all the time how, like, I don't hug because my family was not particularly affectionate.
Yeah. And, I don't know of a study that focuses on how that affects you in the future, but we do know that physical touch is really important in bonding and such. So that is a form of not getting that love and attention that you need. So this study surveyed 374 adults from Canada and Europe. And again, that's like a small sample size, so that's why it has to be redone, just to prove the stats. And so they took surveys on childhood neglect, childhood sexual abuse, identity impairment, and sexual disturbances, as well as general demographic info like sexual orientation, education, occupation, and income, and something else that rhymes with that. And here are the results. If even one parent ignores the kid in a household with 2 parents and appeared not to really be there or love them, was sort of absent, failed to provide a kid with basic needs, kind of like my parents, those adults, the kids, when they became adults, they were more likely to follow other people's orders indiscriminately, being a people pleaser, sort of pick me energy. Have a harder time.
You're using the term pick me.
I know, I'm sorry. Every 3 weeks I pick one term and say it for things that don't apply. And they have a harder time maintaining a sense of self. I find this to be very true for myself. Participants with this identity impairment were also more likely to report being slutty little whores. Higher neglect was associated with more intense sexual concerns like being ashamed of your fantasies and such. And here's what one of the researchers said, quote, unquote, "By not receiving sufficient care and attention from their caregivers, survivors may have internalized that they are not important to others and have little personal value, altering the development of a solid sense of self. This in turn might lead to poor abilities to care for themselves, to know what they like and need, and to act in ways that make sense to them in the long run." And the researchers suggest therapy to get through these childhood mental blocks. And this is what my therapy completely focuses on. And my self-diagnosed addiction to weed is what makes it easier to suppress my anger of not being cared for as a child. So this was super fucking validating to me. Also seemed like an obvious notion, but I think people view me as very confident, knowing what I want and having a sense of self. And I think that there are core values that I really do stand by, but when it comes to little things like what do I want, that's never my first thought. It's always what can I do to make everybody else happy to prove my worthiness, because I don't want to just blend in. I want to stand out as favorable. And I think some people just want to not even be like recognized. They just want to fit in. I want to stand out and be, my identity is based on people's labeling of me, which is why I'm a whore ultimately.
Nice.
So yeah.